and technology will make our lives better. We will live more comfortably. But all of this talk about data and the sharing of it brings interesting questions about privacy, medical history, ethics. So we have with us a world-renowned professor and doctor to help explain some of these issues and where we'll be going with ethics and privacy along with technology, and that would be Dr. Sadek BELOUCIF. So if you could please join us.
Thank you so much. All right. Good morning to all. When I was assistant professor at the Johns Hopkins Hospital, my mentor advised me to always try to imagine what I would be doing in 1 year, in 5 years, and in 20 years. It's easy to dream where we'll be in 20 years, and similarly, what we will do next year can be seen as a kind of natural prolongation of our daily life. But the real challenge is to make the prospective effort of what would, could, should, or simply might be our lives in 5 years. A vision that in fact governs what we will be next year and in 20 years. Fritz Dressler said, predicting the future is easy. It's trying to figure out what's going on now that's hard. End of quote. But we love to predict the future, and Steve Rifkin, one more quote, said, the more unpredictable the world is, the more we rely on predictions. I will thus try to concentrate on the whys versus the hows, because the speed of technical innovation is so fast that predicting what modern medicine could be in 2015 forces us to imagine heavy trends of future medical practice, providing that technology would be able to fulfill or respond to our dreams. The practice of medicine has entered a high-tech mode, if we follow what just has been shown to us by the two previous speakers, and this tendency will be sustained. 5 years ago, we did not have iPhones, and the cost of a computer hard disk was high. Within 5 years, the price of hard disk storage fell from 70 cents per megabyte to just 11 cents now. The price was over $9 per megabyte just 10 years ago. So the current price now is just over 1% of what it was in the year 2000. An incredible computer revolution is happening before our eyes, and the applications in medicine are numerous, like what you will see this afternoon with the medical simulations with Illumens. I just received an advertisement in my email box for a pocket-size echograph. Unbelievable. But medicine is also too often taken as just a technical job. Physicians are experts in explaining the medical conditions of their patients, but the quality of discussion for patients' functional status, values of fear, remains poor or sometimes even non-existent. A practice that lacks the core of human interactions is disrespectful of patients' dignity. As patients, we do not want or like to be treated like that. But caring for patients can be taught. And a recent editorial in Lancet even proposed the acronym CARE for compassion, attention, respect, and empathy. So I would like to briefly propose you today 3 revolutions for which ethics give added value to the technological advances. The first revolution is linked to the occurrence of new behaviors for patients, grouped in networks according to their specific diseases. The two main sources of information for patients right now are Google and TV. And so this tendency would markedly increase as Google and TV would merge to offer tailored specific internet TV shows or podcasts specially designed for their quest of information. And then doctors will have to adapt to follow this trend. The second revolution modifies patient-physician relationships with mature relations. The old-fashioned medical paternalism is over, but so is also full-blooded autonomy taken as the sole ethical principle. We need to strive for a new understanding of mature relations between patients and caregivers in the sense of a therapeutic alliance, as the doctor becomes a special and gentle advisor to an autonomous patient. It is precisely because the practice of medicine is becoming increasingly scientific that doctors need to better understand the kind of consents they ask to the patients. Authorization, assent, permission, acquiescence, approval, and endorsement are all closely allied to consent, but are nevertheless different concepts and illustrate novel relationships between the parties. And then the third revolution. The third revolution would be the growing influence of the state and public policies in medical and financial control of medicine. We already have to think on the way we are handling diseases for the lowest possible cost. An aging population with increased incidence of dependent and disabled patients, and the recognition of individualized predictive medicine with its expensive improvement will pose new financial strains to the system. And so the debate on the future of healthcare in the USA with the Obama reform has a political correspondence in France with the discussion on the retirement reform with the pensions, even if we may hope that an improvement in productivity allowed by the progress of technology might lessen the stresses applied. Spending in healthcare represents 16% of gross national product in the USA and 11% of GNP in France, compared to 9% in the rest of the OECD countries. If healthcare spendings in France continue to rise at current American level, 1/6 of wealth, or 2 months for each citizen per year of work, will be devoted to healthcare, and this would surely pose major political, social, and economic questions. The aging of the general population, associated to a reduced number of physicians, mathematically leads to a reduction of the amount of medical time available per patient. This would result in a reflection on how and which tasks could be delegated to non-medical healthcare workers, according to specific clinical pathways and protocols for care rooted on established principles, guidelines, and norms. Such a system, to be efficient, implies trust and confidence from each participant of this chain of care, and one may then anticipate from the state an increasing attention and severity for deviant practices or behaviors with respect to both scientific and ethical grounds. Dr. Gawande, a surgeon at Mass Gen Hospital in Harvard, answering to a question on what are the most intractable problems in medicine today, answered, "Intractable problems come in 2 flavors. There are failures due to scientific ignorance, lack of knowledge, and failures to use the knowledge we have, ineptitude." So I think that with relevant progress in technology, we have to gain power precisely in the way we are using technology. For example, how to cope with the fact that the majority of X-rays performed in emergency situations in the UK are now interpreted by physicians located in India. Ethics and technology should not be opposed, but rather be associated. The aim is not only to do the thing right technically, but also to do the right thing humanly. So in conclusion, it's very difficult to speculate in medicine, a field governed by the fact that we love to wonder, to imagine, and not only on how to beat death. Innovation per se and progress do not know nor understand frontiers and boundaries. Thomas Edison, that we saw, did not invent the light bulb by working on how to design a better candle. So let's be hopeful for the future as we, as clinicians, have a kind of religious-like belief of hope in good health, as we value a kind of myth of life, liberty, and the pursuit of knowledge. The pursuit of happiness. But they might be considered synonymous for a physician. As patients, we are impatient, and we are all aiming at quantum leaps. But we often fail to see that improvements in care come in frog leap manner, and we also forget to realize the major advances that consecutive frog leaps had brought us. And finally, although progress points in the direction of ever-increasing control over life and authentic control of self, would be to know where to stop and to think about the boundaries of what can be done. This attention to care needs to go hand in hand with the concept of cure. And this would be the condition and the consequence of an adult empowerment of sound technological improvements serving mankind, fighting injustice and dehumanization. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. That's
Thank
just outstanding. How technology will enable us to become more human.